Right. It looks like my camera is not working. Maybe. Let's see. Okay. All right, something is not working as expected. Let's see. Can anyone see me or hear me? I'm not sure if anyone's even here. Let's see though. Okay. Oops. I need to. Here we go. All right, look at that. I can actually see my screen here. Not sure if you guys can see me, but let's see. All right, looks like I may have one person on here, or I'm not entirely sure if people can hear me or not. If you can hear me, would you mind just typing something in the chat? Just letting me know. This is first time going live on YouTube, so just kind of trying to figure out how this all works. It looks like my screen is being shared, so I can walk through the analysis here. It just doesn't look like it's showing me at all. So I must have something wrong with the webcam, but it's okay. We're going to press on. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Can anyone hear me? Actually, it looks like there's no one on, so it's just me. It's okay. Okay, so I've been wanting to walk through more of these analyses here. And this is what I do, for people that I have a consultation with. We talk a little bit about their retirement goals. We talk about, their legacy goals. We talk about, how much market risk they want to take on going into retirement, which for most people, as they get a little bit closer to retirement, they want to take on a little bit less risk, especially if they have, significant wealth that they've built up. A lot of times they want to take a lot of that money out of the market. They want to remove it from the, potential losses of being in the market. And so that really is the focus of my planning process, is really let's figure out how to maximize income, and, let's create a plan that we're not worried too much about what happens in the market with our money. So we create a plan that is really just taking some of the security of what insurance companies can provide and leveraging that for, income that we can layer on top of Social Security. And then also, depending on how much risk you're wanting to take on in retirement, a lot of times we're either putting money in really safe vehicles that still have some upside but have no downside risk. A lot of people, we do that. And then I would say, the other half of people still want to have money in the market, which I think is totally fine. But I think as you get into retirement, you just want to have a segment of your money that either can't go backwards or in some way is contractually guaranteed. And really the only way to do that is by leveraging an insurance company. So this analysis that I'm walking through today is really just a couple that I talked to about 2 months ago. And I'm going to walk through, this is a pretty typical presentation. So usually we talk about retirement and what the goals are. And then I put this analysis together. and just give you my thoughts and recommendations on how I think we can best accomplish retirement without too much risk. So as you can see, the first, the main retirement goal is to retire in 10 years with about $12,000 a month of fixed retirement income. So that's really going to be the primary focus of this plan. Because if we can do that, then everything else, then we have a lot more flexibility with all of our other money, whether it's for investing in the market or whether it's for transferring wealth to someone else. But I really think the whole retirement plan hinges on creating a fixed amount of income that, gives you that comfortability going into retirement. So we're going to really focus on that. So in 10 years, they want at least $12,000 a month of retirement income. Their second goal is really to protect that wealth from the market and to start creating a tax-free wealth transfer strategy. And that's really because they know that they're likely going to be okay for retirement. And so now it's a function of trying to reposition some of their money so that they can transfer that money to their kids as efficiently and as effectively as possible. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and put a plan together for that. And then the big thing this couple has mentioned multiple times to me, that's really important to note. Most of the people I work with they're looking for safer options. And so we really are going to talk a lot about that, and just making sure that some of their money is not susceptible to the volatility in the market. And that's what I commonly refer to as safe money. So a little bit about their finances, total retirement assets. They have about 1.2 million. That's not including any home equity, which they have about 800,000 of home equity. That certainly can be used in some ways for retirement. There are definitely options for reverse mortgaging. I know a lot of people have an aversion to that, but there are ways to do that very strategically and very intelligently. Not something I know a ton about, but I have met some people who know quite a bit more than myself about that. And it can be compelling. There's also a lot of people that downsize in retirement. Like they might sell their house, move into something smaller, and then take some of that cash and use it for retirement. So we didn't factor that into this plan, but just know that this couple does have an additional $800,000 of home equity that they could use. But I don't really think they're going to need to. So they have about 1.2 million. They want to retire in 10 years. If we just look at kind of a net worth, just a conservative estimate, I think their entire net worth can probably grow at about 6% a year. So I'm projecting that they'll have a little more than 2.2 million here in about 10 years. One of the first things that we're going to do, like I mentioned, is, the retirement income is really the focus. So like I mentioned, they want 12,000 a month. So we're really going to focus on that. So one of the best ways to create guaranteed income is by using an insurance company. And so if you've followed me on social media, I talk about this a lot. And there have been a lot of studies done, people that have analyzed retirement planning and have basically said that if you have an element of your portfolio that is guaranteed, it allows you to be a better investor, and it also helps you eliminate that risk of running out of money in retirement. So there are a lot of benefits to using an insurance company for some of your retirement portfolio. And I think you just have to be strategic about what types of vehicles you use. So you've maybe heard the term annuity before, and maybe you've heard good things, maybe you've heard bad things. Both are probably true. I certainly run into a lot of annuities in my line of work that are what I would say bad annuities, or very, very high fee annuities that don't really provide the right types of guarantees. The specific annuity we're talking about here, this is just an indexed income annuity. And so the way I start this process is I look on the market. I don't have any allegiance to any one company, but I'm looking for which company is a highly rated company that can guarantee us the most future income. And so in this particular example, we found a company, this is American Equity, and just looking at their total portfolio, we're saying because they're just about 60 years old, they're 54, we should have about 60% of their overall money somewhere safe. And we're really going to use that safe money to generate income. And I'll walk you through why. But so that's what this number here is, the 757. So they're going to make a $757,000 annuity contribution right now. And I'll show you what that translates to in retirement and why that's such a beneficial thing to do. But that's going to leave them also, when we project out into retirement, if they continue maxing out the 401k and they get fairly conservative returns over the next 10 years, this will be in addition to the income that they have. But we think they're also going to have about $1.3 million of just remaining retirement assets that they can spend however they'd like in retirement. So when I talk about safe money, I always think a good rule of thumb is whatever your age is probably a good percentage, somewhere in that ballpark, to have somewhere safe. So if you're 60, you should have about 60% of your money somewhere safe. And that can be a combination of places. So, you can have money sitting in cash, and that would be considered a safe place to have money. You can have money in bonds within a portfolio, within an investment portfolio. That's typically thought of as a safe place to have money. Although I will mention the last couple of years, bonds have been very volatile and have had a lot of down years. So bonds maybe aren't the best, most safe place to have money, but they certainly would be considered a safer piece of a portfolio, real estate, and then different insurance vehicles. And that's really the area that I focus in. And so there's a lot of different ways that you can gear that safe money. So really you can gear it to generate future income. And that's what this first column is here, an indexed income annuity. All that does is it's designed specifically to create a maximum guaranteed lifetime income source that you or your spouse can't outlive. So really the only purpose of that vehicle is income. And it's to maximize income with the smallest amount of money. I'll walk through an example of that. The second thing you can do with some of your safer money is you can use what's called an indexed growth annuity. So I think people hear the term annuity and they immediately think income, but not all annuities are designed to generate income. Some of them don't even have an income component at all. So in this case, an indexed growth annuity, all it is it allows you to invest in index funds, but you're doing it through an insurance company. And so what they're doing is they're protecting you from any potential market losses. So you're essentially investing in this index fund only when the index fund goes up. And then if the index fund goes down, the insurance company's covering those losses for you. So those can be a good way if you just want to participate in the market, but you don't want to take on any risk of losing your principal. Then you just have an insurance company guarantee that principal for you. Another vehicle I use quite a bit, just a short-term fixed annuity. Also no income component, but I like to think of these as a CD. So it acts exactly like a CD. It's just issued by an insurance company instead of a bank. But you can pick whatever time period you want. So maybe you want a 3-year fixed annuity or a 10-year fixed annuity. The insurance company up front is going to tell you exactly what that interest rate is for that time period. And they're going to contractually guarantee that for the life of the contract. So 3 years, they might tell you, we'll pay you 6% a year for 3 years. And that's exactly what they're going to do. You can take the interest as a payment, or you can roll the interest back into the account and let it compound. But it's just a way to create some predictability and let them take on market risk for you. And so if you've done a good job planning and you don't really need to take on volatility in the market, these could be good ways to protect your principal and get some guaranteed growth. These have been, I would say, very attractive recently because interest rates have been so high. But they're not always the greatest place to have money. Sometimes interest rates go down and the rates on these annuities come down pretty quickly too. So, but right now they are a good vehicle. Another vehicle I use quite a bit, and it can be structured multiple different ways, but it's an indexed universal life policy. You've probably seen people on social media talking about these a lot. It's probably the vehicle that I think you need to be the most careful about. There's a lot of people that sell them, that talk about them, that don't really know how to design them. A lot of times agents design these for their own maximum commission. And that's generally a poor way to design this if you're trying to accumulate money inside of it. So these can really be used as a way to supplement your retirement income. They can be used as a strategic tax planning tool. A lot of people I work with use these as a long-term care tool. And then really, if you're looking to transfer wealth to somebody, some variation of a life insurance contract is the best way. Just because all the money that grows within a life insurance contract transfers completely tax-free to your beneficiary. So I will walk through a bit more about that. This couple, since they have enough money to retire pretty comfortably, part of this plan is going to be talking about wealth transfer and how to do that. So I will talk about that here in a second. So as I mentioned, the retirement income piece is the most important. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at what is 60% of their current retirement assets. What does that generate in terms of future income? So if we take 60% of their current retirement assets, which was about 1.2 million, that was this number right here, this 757,000. And so we shop on the market and we look at insurance companies and we want to see what they can guarantee in terms of future income. And so this isn't always the company I use, but I have used this company quite a bit. This is an American Equity income annuity. And so the way this works, you can kind of see up here, initial premium, that just means that's the contribution you make. And then the way this contract works is they're going to credit you 10% as soon as you fund a contract like this. And you're now taking money out of the market and you're giving it to an insurance company. And so what they're doing is they're now taking on all the market risk for you. So what that means is it doesn't matter what happens in the market. They're guaranteeing you an interest rate on this contract for as long as you wait to take your income. And so this particular vehicle, you can see down here, it says interest rate IAV. That's the income account value interest rate. So they're guaranteeing you a 7% interest rate on your income value every year for 10 years. They're also this 5.89%. That just says when you decide to take income, and this couple, they're 54 now, so they're going to take income at 64. They're going to be paid out on their income account at 5.89%. So that's how the income is calculated. And it's just based on age. So when there's two spouses, they have a guaranteed payout factor. It's just based on all their internal calculations on life expectancy, things like that. But you can see 5.89% is a pretty high payout when you look at, the general recommendation is that if you have money in the market, you shouldn't take more than 4% a year out of that portfolio. Otherwise, you're taking on too much risk of running out of money. So 5.89 ends up being quite a bit more. Plus, you've got the fact that they're going to accumulate money for you at 7% a year for 10 years. So you're going to significantly grow your income and your account within a contract like this, and you're going to do it without any market risk. So that's why I like starting to position some of the money that you have prior to retirement in these types of income vehicles. So you can see if they put $757,000 into this contract and in 10 years they decide to take income, American Equity is going to guarantee them just over $96,000 a year of income. And that income, they're going to guarantee that income for as long as either of them lives. So that's really the true value of the contract like this, is that you're going to get a high payout in terms of income, but then you're also going to have that income guaranteed, and it's going to be guaranteed to last as long as you live. So the risk of not running out of money now becomes obsolete if you've done the proper income planning, because if you have enough income, then you're never worried about running out of money. And so here's some of the highlights of why these income annuities are beneficial for a piece of your portfolio. So kind of like I mentioned, this is safe money that's not susceptible anymore to fluctuations in the market. So if we come back up here, this 7% a year that you're guaranteed, even if the market goes down every single year for the next 10 years, The insurance company's already contractually guaranteed that to you, so they have to pay that. So your money's not only safe from the market, so it's not just going to go backwards. You have a guaranteed rate that you've locked in, and it's a pretty substantial rate. So that's one of the big benefits. So you're exchanging money, you're taking it out of the market, and the insurance company is now guaranteeing you a rate of growth for as long as you wait to take income. Another big element that's really important is you're eliminating what's called the sequence of return risk from your retirement income. So the sequence of return risk is just, let's say the market takes a big dive as soon as you retire, and you were planning on taking 4% a year out of your portfolio, but all of a sudden the market is down 30%. So, if you take 4% still out of your portfolio, since the market's down 20 or 30%, you're actually going to be taking a lot less income. So, most people are accustomed to living on a set amount of income. So you certainly could just take less income if the market drops. But what most people end up doing is they'll take a higher percentage just because they need that much income. Like if they need $50,000 a year, that's how much income they need. So even if the market drops, they still have to take $50,000 a year out. What can happen is you can end up taking more money out of the portfolio and accelerating how quickly that portfolio is depleted, which just puts you at more risk, just puts you at a little more risk of running out of money. So when you use an income annuity, you're no longer worried about that because the annuity company or the big insurance company, they're now taking on that risk for you. So it doesn't matter. Your retirement income is unaffected by any fluctuations in the market. Now, if you remember, this annuity in particular was guaranteeing a 5.89% payout rate. What that means is that you're generating about 47% more income than you can from the market. So I always like to look at that as if you can generate the same amount of income with less money, it means that you can either leave more money in the market and you can be more aggressive with your investments, or in this couple's particular case, they want to leave money to their daughters. So if they can use less of their money to generate income and guarantee it, they can now start repositioning more of their money so that they can leave more of a tax-free legacy to their children. So I always look at it from an efficiency standpoint. If we can create income with less money, why don't we do that? So that's one of the big benefits is you get leverage from an income standpoint. Now, the big thing is that it eliminates the possibility of running out of money in retirement. So that is the number one concern amongst retirees, is that their money might not last all the way through retirement. So when you use an income annuity, you have it guaranteed by an insurance company. No matter how long you live, you could live to be 120, and they're on the hook to still continue paying you income. So you're never worried about running out of money. You take that risk off the table. That allows you to be a lot better investor. It also allows you to live a lot more of a stress-free retirement. So there's definitely an element of that. They say that people that do have guaranteed income sources, so people that have pensions, people that have private annuities, they tend to live longer just because they have less stress in retirement. They're not worried about the market. They're not worried about if their money's going to last. They have somebody else that's insuring that. And so, like I mentioned too, if you use less of your money to create some income, you now have a little bit more freedom and flexibility with some of your remaining assets. So I think that that's a really important piece. If you have a remaining $1.3 million on top of your income, but your income's all guaranteed, then I think you really have the freedom to spend all of that money. And even if you blow through all of it, you still have the income. So you're still not worried about ever running out of money. So you can see this income schedule here. All this shows is the initial premium. And then you can see there's a 10% bonus added. And then what this income account value shows is just your benefit account on this income annuity. And that's going to grow each year at the guaranteed rate that they contractually guarantee. And then at any point along that time, you can decide to start taking income. this couple's planning on taking income just at the start of the 11th year, so after 10 years, and that's going to be $96,000 a year. But if, for example, if they reached 60 and they decided we want to retire now, we want to start taking the income, they could turn the income on early and it would be $66,000 a year, guaranteed for life. Or if they got to 64 and they didn't necessarily need the income right away, they could let it grow for a couple more years and then turn the income on at a much higher rate. So there's a lot of flexibility on when you take the income, and you don't have to predetermine that. You can just decide anytime to start taking income. You can also shut the income off if you want, which I've never dealt with somebody who actually shut the income off. But let's say you start taking income and then maybe you pick up a consulting gig and you start bringing in some income. So you could shut the income off on this, let it continue to grow again, and then turn it on again at some point in the future. Now, another thing, I get this question a lot, but people say, well, what if I contribute to an annuity, and I die, I'm just giving all my money to the annuity company. And that is not true. So if you look over here, this just shows your residual value of your contract at any point. So it's never less than you put into it. And that's the death benefit. So that just means that if both you and your spouse passed away, this remaining value in this contract would still be your family or your beneficiary's money. So annuity companies don't just keep your money. Now, if you do look over here, this yellow line just shows that, once you start taking income, so you can see you're taking $96,000 a year out of this contract. It is going to start to deplete the value of the contract. And this is designed as a maximum income distribution. So it is going to deplete the value of the contract over time, but that's kind of the goal of it. So if we're trying to maximize the income, a lot of times we're sacrificing the long-term value of the contract, but that's okay because this isn't really our wealth transfer vehicle. This really is just our income vehicle. So you can see the contract value on this particular annuity after, it looks like at age 75, there's no residual value left in the contract. But you put $750,000 into it initially, and you've already taken over $1 million out of it. But the important piece is that you still have this income that's guaranteed, even though the contract value is zero. So you certainly can structure these so that the value of the contract lasts a lot longer. But that's not really the best way to design these, in my opinion. I think you're using these to leverage for income and trying to take as much income as you can so that you can use less of your money to create income in retirement. And then you can see too, this income continues even though the value of the contract's been zero. So, if even one of the spouses lives to be 85, they've taken $2.1 million out of a contract that they only put $750,000 into. So these really are a vehicle that become more valuable the longer you live. So if you have some longevity in your family, you're insuring your income at a really high level, and the insurance company's taking on all that risk for you. So you're never worried again about income. This just kind of outlines that at age 85, there's $2.1 million taken out and only $757,000 put into it. These also important to note, as you retire, one of the biggest expenses that can really derail a retirement plan is long-term care. So on this particular contract, you can add a long-term care rider, which can double your income for 5 years. It does have a bit of a waiting period. There's a 2-year waiting period, but if you look at it, it's a great way to protect your assets from long-term care. And really, this is important, especially if you're looking to transfer money to your kids. Long-term care could cost $500,000 pretty easily. So, if you can spend, I think it's 0.1% on this contract to insure, it's about $500,000 worth of assets from long-term care. It's basically just guaranteeing that, $500,000 doesn't get eaten up in a long-term care facility, and that $500,000 can instead go to your kids. So if we look at the results here, I want to look at the results. So if you remember, their goal was to retire with $12,000 a month of fixed retirement income. And so just putting that $750,000 into the income annuity, that guarantees them just over $8,000 a month in 10 years. And then we also factor in the Social Security that they have at that same time, which is about $6,100 a month. So we add those both up. Both of those are guaranteed income sources. Social Security is going to grow a little bit with inflation, but as soon as they retire, they now have $14,000 a month of guaranteed income for life, so they can never outlive that income source. And then they also have could be more, about $1.3 million of additional retirement funds. So they were making the contribution to the annuity, but then they were also going to continue to fund that 401k plan that they have. And then if we just assume that they get 6% a year or so, that's going to leave them with another $1.3 million on top of their income that they can really spend more flexibly in retirement, or their main goal was to transfer wealth. So we're going to start using some of that $1.3 million to create a wealth transfer strategy. And so that's the next element I want to walk through real quick here too. And before I keep going, I just want to make sure I'm not missing any comments or anything here. It looks like, okay, we got someone joined. Still not sure. It doesn't look like anyone can see my face. I don't know if maybe my webcam's not working, but we'll get that figured out for the next time. So, okay, so we've got the income piece covered. So, they're comfortable now. They've got $14,000 a month of guaranteed income. They said they only needed $12,000. So part of what we're going to do is we're going to use a little bit of that supplemental income that they don't necessarily need. And we're going to do what I always refer to as a tax-free repositioning strategy. Really, what that's doing is we're taking income that we don't need. We're using that leverage that we're getting from the income annuity to fund a tax-free wealth transfer vehicle. And so this is one I recently did for a lady here. And this is just an example here. But so this is a $3 million tax-free legacy policy. So what that means is this is actually an indexed universal life. And what it means is if you purchase a policy like this, you have to medically qualify for it. But on day one, we designed this to have a $3 million death benefit. And so what that means is that $3 million will be transferred to whoever the beneficiary is at any point. If whoever purchases this policy, if they pass away, there's $3 million tax-free to their beneficiaries. So this particular policy for a 60-year-old, she's going to fund that with $37,000 a year. Now, seems maybe if you think of it in terms of premium, $37,000, that's a little more than $3,000 a month. It seems really expensive. But let's say she puts $37,000 in 1 year and passes away. She put $37,000 in. Her kids get $3 million tax-free. So her family, if we look at it from an overall perspective, her family gained, $2.97 million of tax-free wealth. So that's really where the power of these comes from, is really in the tax benefit that you gain in transferring money to someone else. And so this is what the wealthy people do. The money that they don't need, they reposition it into contracts like this, and they gain tax-free wealth for their kids. So this premium, if she pays, this couple, we're looking at a 60-year-old female and an example for her, but this couple is a little bit younger, so they'd likely be able to get more death benefit for cheaper. But if we just look at this example, this contract is guaranteed for 32 years. That's a very important point. So indexed universal life is usually not guaranteed forever like whole life. So whole life says this policy is guaranteed to age 126, I believe is the age now. So they're guaranteeing if you pay premiums until 126, we guarantee you the death benefit. That's great in principle, but the problem with whole life is that to provide a guarantee for that long, it's very expensive. So what an index universal life does is instead they allow money to be indexed to index funds in the market, and they allow the growth of the market to contribute to these types of policies to allow them to basically last longer. Okay, kind of a confusing concept, but basically what they're doing is they're relying on indexes to partially fund this contract for you. And so you can't rely too much on that, because if you do that, if you have a really low guarantee for how long this contract lasts, it means you're not putting enough money into it. And that's a situation you never want to be in. And I've run into these many times where somebody has an index universal life that's going to lapse in 5 years, and they don't know it. They think it's a permanent policy. So something that's really important, especially if you're trying to transfer wealth, you want to have a guarantee for a long period of time. So you can see this says lapses at year 32. What that means is that this 60-year-old, if she continues to pay premiums, this policy will last until she's 92 years old, guaranteed. And that just means that if 32 consecutive years occur with no market growth whatsoever, so if there's no index credits that happen internally in this policy for 32 years, which is incredibly unlikely, it'll still be guaranteed. It also says that if the insurance company raises their internal fees and charges on the policy to the maximum that they're allowed to. So it's kind of like the insurance company's backstop, but they have the right to raise prices on policies if if a bunch of unknown things happen. This is kind of how insurance companies protect themselves. They have these guaranteed rates that they can charge. So if we look at this, we know this is a good design policy, because even if they raise their rates to the maximum, even if the market does nothing for 32 years, which is next to impossible, then this policy still lasts to age 92. So we know that it's virtually a permanent policy. And then when we factor in those index credits, we know that, even if we get, credits every 3 to 4 years, we know that this policy is going to last to age 100. So it's a much cheaper way to transfer wealth. If she were to buy a $3 million whole life policy, it would probably cost her twice, maybe 3 times as much. So it's a more efficient way to transfer wealth. Now, if she pays premiums until age 90, she's put just a little over $1 million into this policy. And again, the death benefit is still $3 million. So I always look at this as she's taking out maybe $37,000 a year from a taxable retirement account, like an IRA, and she's putting it into this policy. So let's say she's paid taxes on $1 million of income. She would have had to pay taxes on it anyway. But if she were to transfer a Roth IRA to her kids, or a traditional IRA to her kids, that entire balance is taxable. So instead, she's transferring $1 million into a life insurance policy and paying taxes, but then she's gaining, or her kids are gaining, $2 million of tax-free wealth on top of the $1 million that she's already paid taxes on. So it's a great way to transfer wealth. So we know too, if you remember from the beginning, this couple, they did already have a universal life policy, but it was a variable policy. So the expenses were very heavy. So one of the big recommendations for them, we were going to transfer their universal life cash value into one of these indexed universal life policies. And since they were contributing $1,200 a month into that, we're just going to say, well, then you're going to continue to contribute $1,200 a month, but not into that variable universal life policy that has a lot of expenses. We're instead going to contribute it into this indexed universal life instead. And then we're also going to take, since they have about $14,000 a month of income and they really only need $12,000, they're going to take this extra $2,000 a month And they're also going to shove that into this index universal life policy as well. So what they're going to end up doing is they're going to end up putting about $37,000 a year into an indexed universal life policy, which is beyond what they need for retirement. And they're just going to continue transferring money into that contract. And they're going to likely end up getting a policy that has about $4 to $5 million of death benefits. So it's going to be a little bit larger than this for a couple reasons. A couple reasons are they are younger. So they're 54 instead of 60. So they'll be able to get more death benefit for cheaper. They're also going to roll about $300,000 of cash value into the policy right away. So that's going to drive the death benefit up as well. And then they're going to continue contributing at this level. So I didn't run the exact numbers for this one, but they'll be getting about $4 to $5 million of guaranteed wealth transfer to their kids. So that really, if we look at what their overall picture looks like, they're going to end up retiring here with $14,000 a month. They're going to have about 1.3 million in addition to that. They're going to take about 30,000 a year, a little more than that, from this pile of money, and they're going to just continue to shove it into this policy so that they can guarantee that they're leaving their kids tax-free money. And remember, all of their income's guaranteed, so they have at least $12,000 a month when we take out the life insurance contributions. All of that's guaranteed, including Social Security. They're going to get a little bit of a cost of living adjustment each year because Social Security is going to continue to grow. But they're going to be able to accomplish all of their goals, and they're going to be able to do it without really taking on any market risk. They certainly can take on market risk, knowing that this income is guaranteed, and there's no susceptibility to any market conditions for this. So whether the market does well or poor, it doesn't matter. This income is still going to roll in every month. So they have nothing to worry about with regards to the market. They don't have to worry about making their money last anymore because this income is guaranteed. And then, like I mentioned, they're going to take that $1,200 a month that they're funding their other policy with the additional $2,000 a month that they have in income coming in from this annuity. And they're going to use that to create this somewhere between $4 and $5 million tax-free legacy for their girls. So, and they're doing it all essentially with insurance companies. So they're using the guarantees that insurance companies provide to not only grow their wealth and guarantee it, but to be able to transfer it very, very tax efficiently. So that is the analysis. And so you remember this couple, they wanted to retire in 10 years. They're able to do that very comfortably. They wanted to protect their wealth and create some tax-free wealth transfer. They're going to be able to do that very effectively as well. And kind of like I mentioned too, most of their money is not at all susceptible to volatility in the market, at least the important part of their retirement. So the income is not affected by the market, and their wealth transfer is not affected by the market. So what that means is that any remaining money that they have, they certainly can be invested in the market if they want to be. But they don't have to be, I guess. I guess that's the point. If they are comfortable knowing that they have guaranteed income and they have some wealth transfer set up for their daughters, then maybe they are more comfortable with being in the market with that remaining money. Or maybe they're not. Maybe they're okay with just some fixed returns on the rest of their portfolio. And maybe that peace of mind is worth more to them than any market volatility. So it's just a typical example of a couple that I've worked with recently. So, if you ever want me to do a similar thing for you, there's links in all of my social media. There's links in my emails that I send out. You can find me on Instagram, Safe Money Matt, TikTok, Safe Money Matt, YouTube, Safe Money Matt. You can also check out my website too. It's safewealthplanning.com. But this is a very typical analysis that I put together for people, and just kind of teaching people, how to leverage some of your money, how to use some of that money, take it out of the market and leverage some of the contractual guarantees that are offered by different insurance companies, so that you can just take some of the risk off the table going into retirement, and really ensure that you can achieve all of your retirement goals. So definitely reach out if you would, like me to do an example like this for you. And I'm going to do more of these case studies. I'm not sure. I need to get my video figured out. But for anyone who tuned in, I appreciate you tuning in, and hope you got some value out of this. And let me know if you'd like to see me do these again. And I am going to go ahead and end this stream here. But like I said, feel free to reach out if you'd like me to do something similar for you. And thanks for tuning in.